says he will not cooperate with an investigation of the Southeast Asian nation's drug war killings proposed by the International Criminal Court prosecutor. Rights groups and critics of the drug killings have welcomed the proposal, saying a full-scale investigation would bring justice closer for the families of thousands of people killed. For more, I'm joined by Melanie O'Brien, who's a senior lecturer in international law at the University of Western Australia. Melanie O'Brien, thank you so much for your time. What has the ICC said about a possible case against Rodrigo Duterte?
So where we're at now is that the Office of the Prosecutor has conducted what's called a preliminary investigation, which is basically where they look at information that's available in the public domain. And they decide, is this case serious enough to progress to what we would call a formal investigation? And so what they've done now is they've actually requested the court to authorise a formal investigation going forward. And that would mean that they would then put all their resources into conducting further investigations beyond what they've already found. So doing things like undertaking interviews with people on the ground, if they can do that.
Why has it taken so long, given the Chief Prosecutor first expressed concerns about reports of extrajudicial killings in 2016?
So these things always take a really long time. One of the biggest challenges when it comes to international crimes is the sheer scale of them. So we're not talking about a single murder. In the case of the Philippines, what the Office of the Prosecutor has actually found is that they estimate anywhere between 12,000 and 30,000 people have been killed in Duterte's war on drugs. So it's the sheer number. So what it means is that it's really, really important that they actually get the right evidence and that they have enough evidence to go forward with a case. So that kind of thing takes a really long time at investigation stage and also even at trial stage.
The President removed the Philippines from the ICC after a preliminary probe was announced in 2018, which you mentioned earlier. So what jurisdiction does the court have here?
Yeah, so this is a challenge. So obviously the court is saying that they have jurisdiction over the crimes that were committed in the period between 2011 and up until March last year, when the Philippines withdrew from it. But the challenge that it means now is that the ICC can't enter the Philippines to conduct investigations without the authorization, without the consent of the government. And of course, as you've said, Duterte has expressly said that he will not cooperate. So that's going to be a huge challenge. And bear in mind also that the International Criminal Court has investigators, but it doesn't have its own police force with arresting power. So what it would be relying on then are the police officers in the country to actually arrest the perpetrators. But the great challenge there is that the perpetrators are in fact the police forces within the Philippines. So those are the challenges that the court would face immediately. However, we may see those overcome, because Duterte's term is actually up next year. So if we see another government coming in that renews the relationship with the International Criminal Court, which is highly possible given the history, then perhaps we may see, sooner than we think, some perpetrators being turned over to the ICC in The Hague.
Yeah, it's really interesting you laying out all the challenges that are before the ICC in possibly prosecuting this case. How effective in general is the ICC in bringing these types of cases in a timely fashion? It usually deals with historical crimes, doesn't it?
Not always. So sometimes they become historical crimes because it does take so long to investigate them. And in that period of time, perhaps the conflict ends. But generally, the ICC, because it functions currently and because it has such a wide, what we call geographic jurisdiction, so it can actually cover a lot of countries, it can cover current crimes that are going on. And in fact, the court actually said with regards to these killings in the Philippines war on drugs, that the crimes are still ongoing. They have happened since March 2019. So if in the future we see the Philippines rejoin the International Criminal Court, we may see them taking action about crimes that were committed in that period since March 2019 as well.
And other countries have followed this hard line from the Philippines, haven't they? Sri Lanka, for instance, reintroduced the death penalty for drug trafficking cases after the war on drugs in the Philippines. How concerning is that? That
is very concerning, and especially from a human rights perspective, because The death penalty is obviously highly problematic. It has never been proven to be a deterrent against crimes. The main deterrent against crimes is the certainty of punishment rather than the severity of punishment. So bringing in the death penalty for drug-related crimes is always really problematic. And we know that in the region near Australia, where we see the death penalty applied to any drug-related offences, no matter how high up or low you are in the chain there. So this trend is quite problematic, yes.
Melanie O'Brien, really good to talk to you. Thanks for joining us.